Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Art of Inspiration podcast. I'm super excited today. My guest is a kick ass coach, happens to be a very good friend of mine. She's a motivational speaker. Her coaching, I think, is very specific and it goes very much in alignment with what I am all about: mind, body, and business. She coaches people who are either looking to start a business, looking to start a coaching practice, looking to get into the podcast game, but they have anxiety, they have limiting beliefs. She has been through some really just incredible times in her life. She's taken those lessons and she's giving them back to the world as a coach, and she is just utterly amazing. So, my good friend, Catherine Dean, welcome and thank you very much for taking the time to be on the podcast.
No, Raph, I'm so excited to be here. Like I'm so humbled right now, and I'm just excited to get this message out here and talk to you and your audience and just spread the good word and spread the hype.
Absolutely. And so we're going to get into a little bit of the hype later because we all want to know about what is this hype all about. But I think right now, especially with what's going on in the world right now, people are really just going through so many different things. People are interpreting what's going on in the world in different ways. They're dealing with it in different ways. And I think we all are feeling a little bit of stress and anxiety. You've been through just a tremendous journey in your life, and you've had a lot of those ups and downs, as we all have. And I'd love for the audience just to hear a little bit about your story. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let's dive into the thick of it. Let's go back in time, because I think the best place to start for people to understand like how I got to where I was, my fall and then the breakthrough, is when I was young. And I was such a like interactive kid. Like I was so creative. I literally had my head in comic books all the time, graphic novels, still love it, still such a nerd about it. And so that was how I was as a kid, and I loved it. And unfortunately, though, I got to grade school, and grade school wasn't so kind back then to kids that loved comic books and read a lot. And I got labeled as the nerd, and I got bullied so much, and it lasted throughout middle school. I ended up having to go to a different high school because I didn't even want to go to school with those kids that I had grown up with. It was that bad. And my mom was like, you have a decision to make. You can come to the high school where I work at, or you can go where all these kids, you already know what's going to happen. So I changed high schools. It was that bad. And it made an impact on me. It made me look at myself different. I hid behind my books instead of being proud of it. I questioned my self-worth. I never thought I was really pretty, even when I landed the dream guy, right? Like landed the dream guy, went to college and everything. And I still had that inside of me that questioned everything about myself. And I had that inner critic that just was like, you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not pretty enough, no matter what you have in front of you. And I think it's important to remember that we can have, we can go to college, we can get the dream guy, we can get a job, we can get the fancy car and the house, and it doesn't matter, because what's going on internally has so much to do with like how you're perceiving the world. And unfortunately, all of that came to a head, and I consider it like a volcano. I think I was just like slowly simmering all my life, just the stress of not loving the girl that I looked at myself in the mirror and saw, and just being so resentful to myself and to others for what I had went through. And I experienced a panic attack 6 years ago in January. I tell people I was actually relaxing in the bathtub, which is the most random place to have a panic attack. And that all came to a big blow. The volcano erupted, and I had anxiety. I had panic disorder, and it completely pulled the rug out from underneath me. Like my life completely changed in that moment.
That I mean, that's a lot. And I can see that throughout, since you were young and as you were starting to grow up, there was just little things that have kind of happened along the way that seem to build and build and build and build. And then all of a sudden it just came to a head and it led you to just having this really breakdown moment and this fall moment in your life. And obviously where you are right now isn't that person.
No.
And I'm going to have to assume that there's a lot of changes that you made in your life. And following again, what I would love people to hear from you is a little bit of, as you're going through this time in your life where things are really rough, what's going through your mind. And then as you're starting to follow the journey of healing, of self-awareness, of getting to be the person that you are now, what are you saying to yourself? What does that mental shift look like for you?
I think to be able to understand the mental shift, we have to understand where I was too and what I was thinking. So during that time, it was such a dark period in that moment of my life where I fell, because I became a recluse. I didn't want to go anywhere. I was afraid of the fear. Like, I feared the fear. I feared myself. And whenever I'm going through all of this, nobody can understand what you're going through unless you're actually going through it. And I think all the old trauma and the bullying got brought back up, because I was just like, oh my God, I am a freak. I am a weirdo. Like, this just proves like I'm crazy, you know? And so like, when I'm in the throes of the fall, that's all I can think of. And I completely lost my voice. I lost like the outspoken like kid that I was a long time ago. I lost all of that. And that's why I'm so passionate today, of course, about using my voice and speaking up, because I lost that for a time and it really hurt. And I think like one of the shifts, like for me, was taking accountability. There was a moment that I remember I kind of just was like, I don't want to live life this way anymore. And I kind of had to look at in the mirror. You know, the truth is it's a bitter pill to swallow. So when I looked in the mirror, it was kind of like, I'm done. I'm done living life this way. And I really want to be the strong superhero warrior woman that I read about in my comic books, you know, and the tough heroes that, you know, I wanted to be that person. And I had to admit, nobody is going to save me. Not one single person, because I went to a cardiologist. He had to make sure my heart was healthy before he was like, look, you know, and he said, this is a mental war. And he goes, you know, you shouldn't be ashamed of it at all. He goes, this happens to so many people. He goes, but you got to understand that only you can win this war. Only you can do this. And he believed in me. And he gave me so many suggestions. I get choked up thinking about it, because he didn't throw me medicine. He didn't say, here, take some of these pills to calm down. You know, he was like, he laid out a foundation to start. And he said, but I believe in you. And he goes, you are very, very strong. And he goes, I can see you want to change. And it was really realizing that I had to change a lot inside of me so that everything around me could change too.
I'm almost lost for words. That's incredibly powerful.
I'm trying not to choke up. I mean, sometimes I talk about it and it's okay to talk about, and then other times I talk about it and it's like, holy crap, like it's still so passionate for me to talk about.
Yeah. And I know that, you know, during an interview where we're here for such a short period of time, it's really hard for people to see the whole picture. I mean, I've had an opportunity to connect with you so many different times, so I know that whole picture. But I just want to just reflect back on what you just said. The fact that this is something that ended with you being going to see a cardiologist, because the stress that had built up over time had actually taken a physical toll on your body, where you had to get your heart checked.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine, actually, no, let me take that back. I can imagine what you must have been going through during that time. And now this person that we see in front of us, you took accountability, you were able to kind of face some of those demons. What would you say was the biggest mindset shift that you made to really bring you over that hurdle?
I think the biggest one was understanding that everything I had been telling myself in my head was not me. Understanding that I had to really dig deep and figure out where those thoughts were coming from. And it was understanding that, if I could just be a silent observer and just kind of watch them like from far away and just let them pass and understand like these are old trauma. This is something that's trying to keep you small. It's trying to keep you safe. And that's what I think people misinterpret the inner critic, and they're kind of like, oh, like, shut up, sit down. Even I sometimes, I'm like, man, sit down, but you have to understand where it comes from. It's keeping you safe. It's keeping you small. And the biggest shift was understanding where it came from, really peeling back the layers, doing that inner work. And it's not pretty. It is not pretty. I don't care what anyone tells you when you're peeling back layers and you're having to admit things to yourself that, you know deep down, but then you have to say them out loud and be like, this came from this came from that. But are you going to sit here and blame that your whole entire life? Are you going to let the voice in your head dictate? So I changed the voice in my head. I respect my inner critic. I let it have its say, but I know it doesn't have control over me anymore. And I change it to my highest self. So when I step into that highest self and that badass boss babe, and she's just this queen and warrior, I'm like, that's me. That is who I am. So listening to her, but respecting where the inner critic comes from and working to change that is a huge mindset shift.
I love that, and you are badass. You really are. And just to think of, from someone who was having panic attacks, that was sitting in a room with a cardiologist because the stress and anxiety just completely took over your body, to where you are right now. I just want to just pause for a minute and just applaud you for that journey, because I know that there's so many people out there, whether it's to that extent or whether it's just a small limiting belief. It's that voice in our head, and I believe we all have it to
Yep.
some degree, whether it's a limiting belief or an anxiety, and being able to go back and really peel back the layers and being able to tell yourself, this is where this anxiety is coming from, this is where this limiting belief is coming from, is incredibly hard to do. The journey inside is a really tough one. On the journey to wherever you're going in your life, if you have a big dream, I always say that you're going to encounter a lot of obstacles that will try to prevent you from getting to where you want to go.
Yes.
The biggest obstacle that you're ever going to encounter is yourself. And
Yeah.
I think that you've done like just such a tremendous job of climbing over all those mountains, going on that journey within, and really being able to conquer those demons and just come out just this badass, awesome person. So I just had to stop for a second and acknowledge that.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I think it for anybody that's had a panic attack before, I think it's important to remember you can be in a room with a bunch of people. You can be at a family get together. You can be wherever, and sometimes you have no idea someone is actually having a panic attack in that moment. It's such a silent scream sometimes. And for me, that's what it was. I think for like the first 2 years, I had 2.5 years. Of course, as I started to work on everything, they got less and less. But for 2.5 years, I mean, uncontrollably, unannounced, I had a couple while I was driving, had to pull over in a gas station. So, I mean, I think it's important to remember when these panic attacks are happening, and if they have happened to you, they are very scary. But at the same time, I want you to remember we were born with that light switch too. Like, we're born with that fight or flight, and it is important for us in like serious situations. But the problem is when we're in situations that aren't serious or non-life threatening, they become life threatening to your body. So, I mean, it took such a toll on me mentally and physically. And I think it's important to remember to just give yourself grace during that period. Give yourself grace. Like, you're not weird. You're not a freak. Your body is just reacting, but you have so much control. Like, I don't want y'all to forget that. You have so much control. And I think part of that control is surrendering to what it is.
Wow. And that's so powerful. So we talked a little.
I just wanted to add that. It was really.
I love this. I love this, and I think that is going to really touch a lot of people in a really deep way, and in a good way. And you had just this transition mentally, and it also was something that you said became physical. So now, I'm looking at that part, the physical part, because I know that if anyone were to follow you on Instagram or look at your social media, so fitness now, looking at physical, is a big part of your life.
Yeah.
Um, would you say that what you do in the gym or health and nutrition, would you say that that was a big part of your journey in kind of healing and working through some of those internal fights that you had?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, the first thing the cardiologist recommended, he was like, was getting a really strict exercise routine. And he said, because you have a lot of pent up adrenaline. So even if you have a lot of anxious feelings, or you're stressed and you're overwhelmed, or if you are having panic attacks, I know it sounds crazy to actually go get your heart rate up, and get it pumping, but that has been instrumental, because it's a place for us to burn off that adrenaline. It could be dancing, it could be lifting weights, it could be riding your bike, walking, running, whatever it may be. But that was a shift, because when I felt better, I did better. And when I felt better, I could think better. And I also believe our stomach is our second brain. And that's not to say that I don't enjoy my pizza. I don't have my wine and my pasta. Like I love my carbs and I love my ice cream, but there's such a balance to it, because before all of this, we were celebrating a lot, because we were closing on a home. We had closed on a home, and just a lot of things to celebrate between us. We were going out drinking a lot, but I still find that I think that was a coping mechanism for me at the time. So I was drinking a lot. I was eating a lot of processed food. I wasn't meal prepping. I didn't even know what meal prepping was like 6 years ago. So when you put all of that together too, and then when you actually start to, add more greens, or meal prep, drink more water, cut back on the drinking a little bit, you start to see this shift, like not only like in your body, but your mind. It plays a huge part, because if we can feel good, we can do good, and we can think better.
Absolutely. That one of the things that I try to tell people is that, and it comes from Tony Robbins. I say it all the time. What is the point of like trying to go out there and be successful and build a big business, and you're constantly sick, you have low energy, you're in the hospital, or you have things going on in your body? If you truly want to be able to show up 100% as the best you, and so many people don't correlate this, that you need to take care of this, you need to take care of the temple. This is the thing, this is the vehicle that you're driving to
Yeah.
whatever destination in your life that you're going to. And this is a tremendous example of you kind of really starting to like go inside. All right, well, I need to start taking care of my body right now, and being able to take care of your body was helping you, like you said, when you felt better, you did better.
Yeah.
So it has a tremendous impact on your mental state, your psychology, and your physiology are, I think, directly linked to each other. And that's an amazing example of it.
And
Um,
I wanted to add too, I think it's important to remember my journey with fitness wasn't linear either. I had my ups and downs, and coming from the background where, I was diagnosed with, generalized anxiety and panic disorder, and all these disorders, I at one point became really neurotic about fitness. So I think it's important to remember that it's great to exercise and everything, but if you're coming from a background of anxious feelings and stress, and really be careful with what you do, and like what you're consuming and what you're consuming on social media. Because for me, my journey to fitness was like the gateway drug, in a good way. Like it was the gateway drug. It opened me up to the online world and everything like that. But I became neurotic for a while, and I was so crazy about what I was eating, and I was tracking on the calorie count, counting calories and everything. And while I understand if you have a goal to meet and you want to do that, that's great, but don't lose yourself in it, and don't lose sight of the present, and just having fun and letting loose a little bit, because it's a slippery slope. And my fitness journey was not linear, but now I have this delicate like balance, and I feel very good about like what I do, what I consume, and how I work out.
I love that. I love that. So we talked a little bit about your mindset shift. We talked a little bit about your fitness, how that contributed to just making this awesome kick-ass person. And now you're totally different than you were 6 years ago. Talk to me a little bit about your definition of success, how you made that just tremendous breakthrough. What do you really feel that success is to you now? And I know you're just getting started, so what your vision is moving forward.
I love this one. For me, I think success can mean a lot of things. And I think that's it's so beautiful in a way because success is so different from, me to you to someone else. But for me, success is believing in yourself and never giving up. It is so easy to throw in the towel. There were so many times where I could have just quit social media or quit my podcast and just been like, you know what, like I'm going to give up, hang it up. It's easier to go back to that comfort zone and not try. I think success is definitely just not giving up and believing in yourself. And for me, it's an internal value. For me, it's not necessarily a monetary value or the shiny things and the cars, and those are all great, but success is so internal. It can be like just being happy and content with what you're doing too, but just never giving up and always believing in yourself. And I think my breakthrough was realizing I'm never going to go back to the way things were. I'm never going to go back to that girl. I appreciate her and I love her and I give her so much like grace and I appreciate what she went through because that's why I'm here today. But I never want to go back to that. I want to keep moving forward and I want to keep evolving. And that was my breakthrough, is just trying new things, like putting myself out there with the podcast and social media and asking questions, leaning into curiosity. And that's what I continue to do. Like my overall vision is I want to build this hype tribe. And that's like the hype in me comes from being from that really low place and then that fall. And I want to build this hype tribe. And it's not to say that things aren't always, going to be positive, but it's keeping that high vibe and believing in yourself, that bigger purpose and that vision. And I already know I'm going to be on stages. I'm going to be in an arena. I already know it. I can see it. I can feel it. And I know it's within my fingertips. And I just want to help as many people see the way I see things too. Like I want them to see that their vision and their purpose, they can live it. I want people to understand that you create your reality. And that's why I became a coach, because I'm like, there are so many people that feel stuck and they feel stuck in that anxiety and that overwhelm. They're overthinking. And it's like, sometimes you just need that helping hand. Sometimes you need that mentor to peel back and guide you. And that's what I'm doing. I see so much potential, so many people out there, like everybody has it in them. I don't want people to think it's, oh, that's just for her. She's really, like, that's for her. She's really good at that, No, like everybody has that inside of them, and that's why I do what I do. And my bigger vision is that stage, hitting more people globally. It's part of the hype brand. It's part of the hype girl in me.
I love that. And you're going to get on many, many big stages. And I think your story is it's so powerful. It's going to literally change people's lives to know what you've gone through and where you are now, and the hope in that it's possible, that you can overcome really anything. That's just tremendous. I'm just taken back every time I hear it. I'm just taken back a little bit more. So thank you for sharing that. So people right now, you're coaching, and I love this because it's taking people that maybe they've started coaching, but they're holding back because they have this limiting belief, this anxiety, or they're just not getting started because of a block that they have in front of them, a wall that it's probably their own mind. I had that block at some point, thinking, I can't do this. And, oh man, there's so many things that can go wrong. So you help people work through this.
Yeah.
You help unlock their hype.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is a one piece of advice that you can give for someone who may be just an entrepreneur who just got started, or someone who wants to get started and they may have that little bit of fear or that little bit of anxiety? What is your message to them? What would you say?
So someone getting started or entrepreneur, or you're doing that podcast, and it's new. You've never done that before. Oh man, I would say a lot, but the main piece that I would say to them is to realize that little uncomfortable part, like that little part that's uncomfortable, that is where you're going to be leaning into your growth zone, because right now you've been in that comfort zone for so long. On the other side of that is a growth zone. And if you can understand that showing up sometimes and being uncomfortable is confidence, you're going to be unstoppable, because every time you show up and you're kind of uncomfortable, or you're kind of like, I don't know, like, I don't know if I should do this. Like, confidence is being comfortable with being uncomfortable. And the more you can lean into that, the more you're going to grow, because then you're going to get used to that feeling. You're going to be like, hey man, I showed up on my stories. I did this podcast with this really cool influencer. Oh my God, like I did it. And it wasn't even like that bad or scary. You're going to be able to do more like things as you go. It's not like you're erasing the fear. I think it's just embracing it and knowing what's on the other side of that.
I love that. Being comfortable, being uncomfortable.
Yes.
So awesome. And I know that, so for all the people out there who aren't familiar with the hype life and don't know where to find you, I mean, you have a tremendous story. You're always out there giving great advice, a ton of inspiration, just inspiring people to overcome their challenges, step into their true self. Where can people find you? How do they connect with you?
Oh, my favorite playground is Instagram. So you can connect with me there. It is at hype_girl_cat. Couldn't get it all together. I might have a name change at some point, but it'll still be like Hype Girl Cat something. But right now it's hype_girl_cat. And you can also find me on my podcast. It's Hype Girl Podcast, and it's on iTunes, Spotify, and Stitcher.
Awesome. So this was tremendous. I can't thank you enough. And your story is just powerful. So I know that there's going to be so many people listening to this that are just touched deeply and inspired. But before I let you go, we have one more question, and I'm gonna ask you for one more gift. And this gift is a box. I'm going to give you this box, and you get to put anything you want inside of it. And if you were to go and take a shuttle to the moon tomorrow and you never came back to Earth, you're going to leave this box here. And it's your most valuable piece of information that people can, remember you by. And they can also take this and use it, implement it in their life. What are you putting inside of that box? What piece of information? What inspiration?
Oh man, I like this question. As odd as it sounds, I'm going to say the first thing that came to my mind. I would put in that box a record and collection of the pain and the struggle that I went through. Because I think the struggle and the pain that we go through is a reminder, like we're all going through something. And I want to leave that. I would leave that behind, because I want people to know that if I can overcome that and shoot off to the moon and be good, like you can overcome anything too. I would leave behind like the story of the fall and the rise, for sure.
You never cease to amaze me.
That's the first thing that came to my mind. It might not resonate with some people, but I was like, I just can't leave an object. I would leave behind like, the record of that, and just leaving that behind to understand, like, if I can overcome that, so can you.
That's incredible. And everyone, maybe not right this minute, but at some point in their life goes through something. And I think that is an amazing gift to leave behind, because really what I see behind that box is hope, inspiration, love, and stepping into the true you. So I can't thank you enough for the gift that you left to all of us, the time that you spent sharing your story. I hope that everyone listening to this is really just taking that in and realizing that whatever journey that you're on, whatever mountain that you have in front of you, you can absolutely conquer it. And this right here, my friend is a perfect example of that. So, motivational speaker, coach, and just all around amazing person. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Catherine Dean.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
guys.
much.
Thanks.